Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary D'Angelo, the Dean of Admissions here at Springfield College, and I will be joined in this session by Troy Davis, our Director of Financial Aid. Thank you so much for joining our session. Of course, we would love to be talking with you on campus this morning, but I do want you to know that we will be presenting the same information we present during an in-person open house. Also, you should know that this session is being recorded and it will be on our website probably at 3 to 4 o'clock this afternoon. So if you don't wish to take notes, you can certainly feel confident knowing that the information will be available to you at about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it will be up until Friday of this week. Nikki Levine, our Director of Undergraduate Admissions, will be monitoring the chat during this session. If you have questions that you would prefer not to ask during the Q&A, please feel free to click on the links provided for admissions and financial aid. Our goal during this session is to help you navigate both the admissions process and financial aid processes seamlessly. So let's get started. As you may know, Springfield College is a common application school. That gives students the opportunity to apply to Springfield along with the other colleges that they're choosing to apply to. It does make for a very efficient process for high school seniors as they navigate the college application. At Springfield College, we require credentials that we categorize as academic, and also we require some personal credentials. I'm going to talk those through with you so that you understand not only what we require, but how we use the information you provide during our application review process. Let's start with the academic credentials. Springfield does require an official transcript of your high school record, and this is something that you can request your school counselor to send to us through the Common Application. As we look at your transcript, we really are kind of dissecting it, I like to say. We're taking it apart, looking at all aspects of it so that we can make sure that we're doing a very fair review of your credentials. The first thing that we look at on a high school transcript is the courses a student has taken over their 4 years. We refer to that as the sequence of courses. So what types of courses have you taken in the subject areas? English, social studies, science, mathematics, a second language. After we look at the sequence of courses, we look at the level of difficulty of the coursework because we want to make certain that we fully understand the rigor of the program a student has selected to follow in high school. So students, if you've challenged yourself by taking courses at the honors level, at the advanced placement level, if you've taken college level courses through a community college in your area or through a 4-year institution that your high school has arrangements with, we will take all of that into consideration. After we know what you've taken and the level of your coursework, then we're looking at your grades. What's your grade point average? Students sometimes get concerned if their high school does not compute a class rank and doesn't share a class rank with colleges. If you come from a high school like that, please do not worry about that. That is not an issue. We can look at your GPA, and that's really what's important to us. As we look at your transcript, we're also looking at your pattern of achievement over 4 years. Sometimes students have a difficult time transitioning to high school. Perhaps their middle school was smaller than the high school that they ended up attending, and the first year may not have gone as well as they would like. We understand that. So of course, we're going to be looking at all of your academic years, including your senior year. So if you're having a very good senior year and you continue on that path, please know that that is something that we will be looking at and paying attention to. Most students who get admitted to Springfield College have a GPA of a 3.0 or higher. That is not a cutoff, and we're very clear in making sure that students understand that. But it is an average, and students want to have some sense of what the average is. So that's the reason that I share it with you this morning. The other academic factor that you will not see listed is SAT or ACT scores. Springfield College is a test optional institution. We do have some programs that in prior years we would have asked for your SATs or ACTs, but this year we have waived that requirement even for the programs that previously required the results of the SAT or the ACT. So there are no students who will be applying to Springfield this year that are required to submit the results of the SAT or the ACT. The other credentials that we consider in our process are personal credentials, and that would include your record of extracurricular activity. So what have you done when you've not been in the classroom, when you're not studying or doing homework? What types of activities are you involved with? And for many students that apply to Springfield, they have activities in their community that they're involved with, service activities. Many students present a strong record of activities through their high school. And then we have many students who have had the opportunity to pursue a part-time job. So all of those things are things that we ask you to share with us because they're all important in our review. And we want to make sure that we know how you've contributed to your school and community and how you're going to contribute when you come to Springfield. That's important to us. The other things that we're going to look at would be your teacher recommendation, so your academic recommendation, which is a requirement of the Common Application, and we're going to be looking at your school counselor evaluation if your counselor did provide that on your behalf. So I hope you get the sense that this is a review that is very thorough, very complete, and does take into account a lot of different factors. A final thing that I'll mention is the essay that you are asked to complete as part of the Common Application. And if you've already looked at the Common Application, you know that there are several prompts that you can choose from and construct an essay where you can share things with the admissions committee that you'd like us to know about you. So I always recommend that students look at all of the prompts and then choose the one that they think will give us the best sense of what they are able to contribute based on the response to that particular question. I do want to mention here academic scholarships, and even though Troy is going to be providing you with a lot of information about financial aid, I handle the academic scholarship piece of it because the scholarships are determined as part of the review of the application. So our scholarship levels are listed there. And again, these are available on our website just as they're posted here. And we base our scholarships on a high school cumulative grade point average. And we recalculate a grade point average. So what that means is the level of difficulty, the rigor that I referred to earlier, that is taken into account. So we will do a recalculation of your grade point average based on the level of difficulty of the program that you've taken. So students, as you receive an offer of admission from us, as part of that, you will also be notified of what level of merit you will be receiving. I'm going to talk a little bit about the application deadlines because it's important to note that we do have some programs that have earlier deadlines than our rolling admissions deadlines. And those programs are physical therapy, occupational therapy, and physician assistant. So students, if you're looking at any of those programs, you're going to want to take note of the fact that there will be an earlier deadline for you to submit your application. I want to talk a little bit about rolling admissions because it may be a term that some of you are not familiar with. Springfield does operate under a rolling admissions policy. And what that means is when an application becomes complete, it goes into review with the admissions committee once we have all of the required credentials. That's the time at which your application for admission is reviewed. And typically, if we don't need further information, typically we turn decisions around within a week or two, and then immediately notify the financial aid office so that they can start the review of the financial aid application. We do ask that students who are admitted submit their enrollment deposit by May 1. That is a suggested date. And I think you're going to find that that date is a date that is shared by many other institutions. For those of you who are thinking about whether or not to apply early decision, let me just share a little bit of information about that program. Early decision is what's referred to as a binding program. So what that means is if a student applies early decision, and if they get their financial aid award and their financial aid award is favorable, we will ask that students submit their enrollment deposit prior to May 1. So really, students, the only time you should be applying to an institution early decision is if you've determined that that school is your first choice. And here at Springfield, each year, about 10% of our class comes in through the early decision program. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Troy Davis, who's going to walk you through the financial aid process.
Good afternoon. My name is Troy Davis. I'm the Director of Financial Aid, and we're going to talk about several topics related to financial aid today, including the cost of attendance, which is the big picture of what it costs to go to school at Springfield College. We're going to talk about a term you're going to hear frequently called an expected family contribution. We're going to define what need is. We'll talk about the categories, types, and sources of financial aid, completing the free application for federal student aid or FAFSA, what you should do if you have special circumstances, and we'll clarify the Springfield College application process. Financial aid is a partnership between the student and family, Springfield College, and government agencies. We each have a role to play in this process to make financial aid available for the student to attend Springfield College. So it's important that we each respond to requests for information as quickly as possible. So let's talk about a cost of attendance. That's a number we use in the financial aid office to determine eligibility for financial aid. It is larger than the bill. It is the big picture of what it costs to attend college for a year. It includes direct costs, which are tuition fees, room and board if the student's living on campus, as well as indirect costs such as books and supplies, personal miscellaneous, and transportation, those things that are not billed directly by the college. We add those two things together and we come up with the cost of attendance. Cost of attendance will vary widely from college to college. There are high-priced Ivies and low-cost community colleges. Springfield College is somewhere in the middle of all of that. And you'll see our 2021 academic year costs, and I'm happy to announce that the Board of Trustees has recently voted that there would be no increase for 21-22. So the cost you see there, totaling $53,800, is what it will be for the 21-22 academic year. What is a expected family contribution? It's an amount that a family can reasonably be expected to contribute towards this student's education. It includes two components, both a parent contribution and a student contribution, each of those looking at income and assets that each of those people possess. It's calculated using data collected from the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and there's a federal formula applied to calculate that EFC. Many private colleges also calculate their own EFC using additional information gathered on a separate application, such as an institutional application or the College Board profile. Springfield College is a FAFSA-only school. We do not require any other additional information to calculate an EFC. So let's define financial need. This is what we do on a very basic level in a financial aid office. We start with the cost of attendance, we subtract the family contribution, which is the result of the FAFSA, and what we're left with is financial need. That's the number we're trying to meet with all the different sources and categories of financial aid. Financial aid comes in two major categories, and each of those categories are divided into subcategories. The first type of financial aid is gift aid. This is the good stuff. This is what you want the most of. It does not need to be repaid at a later date. Gift aid is divided into two categories, scholarships and grants. And those, even though they work the same for the family, they do mean something different to the financial aid office. Scholarships are given to a student who's demonstrated some sort of ability or talent that we hope that they will continue to demonstrate on our campus. There are usually strings attached to scholarships. The student is going to have to maintain a certain grade point average, a certain enrollment level. Some schools may require that they remain in a certain major to receive that scholarship. All of those things are tied to renewing that money in the subsequent year. Grants are given to students based on financial need, and grants can change from year to year based on a family's financial situation. So one of the biggest factors in determining need is the number of family members in college at the same time. So if a family has two in college, they may see large grants that drop during subsequent years when the older student graduates. The second type of self-help, second category of financial aid is self-help. And the student is going to have to do something in order to receive this financial aid. The first type of self-help is loan. So the student agrees to repay that loan under the terms of the promissory note at a later date. The second type of self-help is work study. And work study is a little bit odd in the financial aid world. Eligibility is determined in the financial aid office, but it is not usually deducted from the bill. Students are paid for the hours that they work up to their maximum award. So for many reasons, we don't deduct that from the bill. Students may choose to do a variety of things, such as if they're playing a sport, or they're involved in student teaching, or they just want to spend the first semester getting acclimated to college. They may choose not to work as many hours that term, and they may work more hours in a later term. Sources of financial aid. Financial aid comes from the federal government, state governments, the colleges and universities themselves, as well as civic, religious, and private foundations, as well as employers. And we'll go through each of these in a little more detail. But before we do that, I wanted to show you just how generous the Springfield College Financial Aid Program is. The maroon area, or just about 75% of all aid for main campus undergraduates, comes from Springfield College. The blue is federal, the darker blue, and the light blue is two categories of state and outside private scholarships. But the point I wanted to make is how generous our program is. The federal government has financial aid that is awarded primarily on the basis of financial need. And you must apply for federal financial aid every year using the FAFSA. The federal aid programs that are available at Springfield College include the Federal Pell Grant, the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, Federal Work Study, direct loans for students, as well as direct loans for parents. The states also offer grant programs, Massachusetts, as well as some reciprocity with other New England states. Most of those states are going to have a residency requirement, and they're awarded both on the basis of need and merit, usually using the same information from the FAFSA, but the state may also have their own institutional form to determine eligibility. And the deadlines vary from state to state. In Massachusetts, the date is May 1st. There are private sources, foundations, businesses, and charitable organizations. The deadlines for these and the applications procedures vary widely from organization to organization. Students should begin that research now, this fall of their senior year of high school, and it shouldn't actually end until the spring semester of their senior year in college. We see a large influx of private source scholarships coming in during the student's first year, and then that number drops dramatically during the second, third, and fourth year. And I believe it's simply because students don't continue that search through their college career. You want to be sure not to forget information that's available through your local high school and or your library. Employers may also offer scholarships available to the children of their employees, competitive scholarships. Other companies may offer educational benefits for their employees, such as you bring a copy of the student's grades to the HR office, and they will reimburse you for a portion of the tuition paid for that semester. So you want to check with your employer to see if either of those programs are available to you as a parent. So let's talk about the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. It's a standard form that collects both demographic and financial information from the student and family. It can be filed electronically or using the paper form. At Springfield College, nearly 100% of our students file the form electronically. It's available in English and Spanish, and it has 2 steps to completing a FAFSA. The first step is the FSA ID, which is at fsaid.ed.gov. That serves as the signature for the student and one parent. Each of you will need your own ID to sign the FAFSA. The actual FAFSA is completed at studentaid.gov. The FAFSA can be completed at any point after October 1st prior to the academic year in which the student is going to start. So for the 21-22 academic year, the FAFSA became available on October 1st, 2020. The reason we like students to complete the FAFSA on the web is there are built-in edits to help families prevent costly errors. An example would be the family puts in there are 7 in college and 3 in the household. The FAFSA is going to question that and make sure that you really are putting the right numbers in there. There's skip logic that will allow you to skip unnecessary questions. Depending on how you answer questions at the beginning of the application, there may be questions at the end that are not asked. There's an optional IRS DRT, and we recommend that you use that or take that option. That will link the FAFSA with the IRS for both the student and parent, and it will transfer the data back from the IRS to the FAFSA and complete the FAFSA in putting the numbers in the right line. There's detailed instructions and help for all of the questions on the FAFSA. There's the ability to check the status of your application online. And if you file the FAFSA for the first year online, the subsequent years are a bit easier because they will carry forward demographic data for the student and parents, and you only need to update the financial information in subsequent years. So there's always families that have special circumstances, and they tell us frequently that although the information on the FAFSA is looking at 2019, that's not what we're experiencing right now. And we're seeing lots of that with families losing income as a result of the pandemic. You cannot report those changes on the FAFSA. You need to send an explanation to the financial aid offices, and each college will review the special circumstance. Some will request additional documentation, and you'll receive different decisions from each school. The decisions are final and cannot be appealed to the Department of Education. Some possible circumstances would be change of employment, medical dental expenses not covered by insurance, changes in the parent's marital status since the FAFSA was filed, or unusual dependent care expenses incurred by the family. All of those things are things we would take into consideration in our office. In the financial aid office, we use a portal called My Financial Aid. It's available to students, and it's how we make students financial aid offers available, as well as there's many things they can do there. Login credentials are sent to the student shortly after the student's application is received. They are sent to the student's Springfield College email address. Some of the things that you can do in My Financial Aid are upload documents that we're requesting. You can view, accept, decline financial aid awards. You can track your application materials. There are many links to documents that are available online. There's a scholarship search page, and you can read important messages related to your financial aid that may include terms and conditions of receiving that financial aid. So now that's the end of my formal presentation. We will take questions. Mary and I will take questions that you want to put in the chat box now, or at 1 o'clock at the Meet the Admissions and Financial Aid session. Many of my staff will be available to answer personal private questions. We're going to try to set up private rooms where you can ask individual questions if you aren't comfortable asking your question here.
Mary and Troy, we do have a few questions that are coming in. The first is an admissions question. The question is, I understand that the application is now test optional. Is that the same for programs that require volunteer or patient contact hours, like the PT program, where we would typically require at least 10 to 20 shadow hours?
Yes, thank you, Nikki. That's an excellent question. So due to the pandemic, there are students are having difficulty accessing shadowing hours. So the programs in athletic training, occupational therapy, physician assistant, and physical therapy, which typically do require such hours, have waived that requirement for students applying for the fall of 21. So students, what you will find is all of those programs do have supplemental questions that we ask you to complete. So if you, for example, are interested in physician assistant, when you select that major on the common application, you will be provided with additional questions that we ask you to address. And that will give you a chance to share with the admissions committee what you've done to explore the physician assistant field. And certainly recognizing that you may not have had a chance to get shadowing hours, but you may have interviewed by phone a physician assistant. You may have done extensive research online. So those are all things that you're going to want to share with us in lieu of having the opportunity to complete the shadowing.
Awesome, thank you. This question is maybe for both of you if you wanted to respond, or one of you. What are some things that students are able to do that count as work study?
I'll take that question. We employ about 800 students on campus in a normal academic year. And those jobs vary from facility monitors in the wellness center. Some students work for facilities on campus, maintaining the grounds and buildings. Some students work in the offices. We have 3 students in my office. Some students work in the library. So we have a variety of jobs on campus, and over the course of the year, about 800 students will have been employed at some point.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, at the beginning of the academic year, a job fair is held, typically during the first week of classes. So any departments, many of the ones that Troy just mentioned, will have a table set up so that students can come, get information about the specific positions that they may have available, and then complete applications for any positions that they're interested in.
Great, thank you. Troy, this is a question for you. A message came in, or a question came in that says, I tried to use the IRS GTR or DRT on the FAFSA, but kept getting an error message, so I had to add the data myself. Do I have to mail a copy of the forms to the school?
The answer in general is no, unless if the student is selected for a process called verification, we're going to require a IRS tax return transcript. The flow of the data has to be from the IRS to the school in one way or the other. But if the student is not selected for verification, we will not require any additional documentation.
Great, thank you, Troy. Another question just came in about merit scholarships. If you are in a program, a 6-year program such as the DPT program, and are eligible for a merit scholarship, is the scholarship only for 4 years?
Do you want to take that, Mary, or do you want me to?
You can, go ahead, Troy.
Okay, so the merit scholarships that Mary had on the screen at the beginning are only good for the first 4 years of that program. However, we do offer a Springfield College grant to those students continuing in their 5th and 6th year. For students coming in this fall, I believe that amount is $10,000 a year.
Great, thanks so much, Troy. Mary, this is a question for you. For our limited enrollment programs, or really for any other program, if a student is not admitted to their intended major, is there an opportunity to internally transfer to the program at a later date?
So we do have some programs, as Nikki mentioned, that are limited enrollment. So we're only able to bring in a certain number of students into that particular major each year. And typically the spots are filled. So when we start an academic year, typically those limited enrollment programs have reached their capacity. The only time there would be spots available for students who internally transfer is if a student in the program decided to change a major, and that would open up a spot. At that point, students work directly with the academic department, so it could be physician assistant, it could be occupational therapy. They will work with the department to find out what the internal transfer process is. I'd love to be able to give you a more specific answer in terms of yes, there are always spots, or no, there are never spots. It does vary from year to year, and we're very candid with students who aren't admitted to those programs that they should not come to the college thinking that it's going to be a guarantee that a spot may open. What we will see many students doing is, because they really like Springfield so much and have learned a lot about us through their very good college search, they still want to attend. And we do have a variety of academic programs that we talk to students about that could give them excellent preparation for graduate work in those particular areas. So each year we clearly have students who join us. The intention is to complete their bachelor's degree at Springfield and then apply to graduate school if they still continue with the interest in that particular major. We do also have some programs that aren't limited in enrollment, but do have specific admissions requirements. So an example might be a program in exercise science. So even though there aren't limits to the number of students we can take, sometimes students apply for the program and they don't have the science background from high school that we require for admission to that program. Many times what those students will choose to do, again, still attend Springfield because they really like what they learned about us through their search process. And they may come into the undeclared major, take an intro to exercise science class in their first semester, start with anatomy and physiology 1 in the first semester, and then take anatomy and physiology 2 in the second semester. If those students are successful in those courses, then they can internally transfer into that particular program. And we have really terrific advisors in our academic advising center who work very, very closely with students who come in undeclared with the hope of transferring into a particular program, and they will guide them to take the most appropriate courses so they can eventually be successful in gaining entrance into their program of choice.
Thank you, Mary. I actually have a follow-up question to that just came in. So if a student is applying for a program and is not admissible, and will they need to fill out another application to be accepted to the major that they're interested in other than that initial program?
No. So when we are reviewing applications, and again, I'll use occupational therapy as an example. If a student is not admissible to occupational therapy due to the space limitations, but they are admissible to Springfield College, we will offer that student admission into another program of study. So they're automatically accepted undeclared, but there are some students who, may get that letter and say, you know what, I really have a very strong interest in health science. I'd rather be health science than undeclared. All they have to do at that point is reach out to their admissions counselor and indicate that they have an interest in health science, and then we will offer them admission into that particular program if they have the credentials. But there is no secondary application required. That was a very good question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Troy, this question is for you. Are there scholarship opportunities for alums or students that have a current sibling currently at Springfield College?
Sure. We offer a program called the Legacy Award. So if a student has a relative, a parent, grandparent, brother or sister, or step sibling or parent, they would be eligible for a one-time $2,000 award. That also applies to if they have a sibling who is a current student at Springfield College.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy. This is another question for you, Troy. Is it likely that the financial aid award will be the same each year for students?
Yes. The simple answer to that is yes, unless there is a dramatic change or a significant change in the family's financial situation, they can expect the same award to be offered each year. There are things that they need to keep in consideration. For the merit scholarship to be renewed, there's a GPA requirement that they must meet. If there's more than one family member, more than one student in college at the same time, and that changes at any point during this student's career, that could change the student's eligibility for need-based aid.
Thank you, Troy. Mary, this one is for you. Does Springfield College accept AP and dual enrollment coursework for transfer?
Yes. So with the advanced placement program, if a student receives a grade of 3 or higher on an AP exam, they will be considered for credit here at Springfield College. The score that a student receives may determine how much credit they receive. So for example, I'll use the freshman writing requirement that we have. It's a 2-semester writing requirement. If a student scores a 4 or a 5 on the AP English composition exam, then they do not need to take either of those courses. So they will receive 6 credits for a score of a 4 or 5. For a score of a 3, they would receive 3 credits, so they would not have to take college writing 1, but they would be required to take college writing 2. In terms of the college courses, college level courses that a student may have taken through a community college or through another 4-year institution, if they receive a grade of a C- or better, they will receive credit for that course at Springfield.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. It doesn't look like we have any other questions right now, but folks, if you'd like to use the Q&A feature to submit any questions that you might have for Mary and Troy, please feel free to do that. All right, so we just got another question. Does Springfield College accept CLEP exams?
Yes, if a student chooses to take a CLEP exam, there are test centers that are available to them. We are not a test center, but there are many test centers out there. most of which are housed at community colleges. If a student were to take a CLEP exam and achieve a score on that exam that's acceptable, we would consider CLEP credit as well. Typically, a student will take a CLEP exam if they feel that they have had an extensive background in a particular subject area and would like to be able to receive credit and potentially have a requirement waived here at Springfield if it's part of our core.
Awesome, thank you, Mary. I'm not seeing any additional questions come in at this time. Maybe if we want to wait just another minute, if folks have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And just as a reminder, our admissions and financial aid staff will be available for the Meet Your Admissions and Financial Aid Staff session at 1 p.m. today as well.
Great, well, thank you all very much. We appreciate that you took part of your Sunday to join us, and we hope that you have an opportunity to participate in the other live programs that we have for the remainder of the day. And I will remind you that the open house will be up on our website through Friday of this week. So if you want to go back and listen to the recording of a session you may have missed, or view some videos that you didn't have an opportunity to do today, you will have a chance to do that. And I know I speak for Troy and his staff and for the entire admissions staff. Please, throughout the course of this process, if you have questions, remember that nothing is a stupid question, particularly when you're looking at a private institution with a price tag for a private institution. So we welcome you to reach out to the staff in financial aid. We welcome you to reach out to the staff in the admissions office to help you with anything you might need during this process. So again, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.